Football, a sport that is for everyone, but in the modern day, the game is becoming more and more expensive. Clubs up and down the country are having to stop operating due to the financial pressures of running a football club. But one place where it's taking the biggest toll is non-league and grassroots football. Keeping up with things such as travel to and from games, stadium expenses, and paying staff are all adding up, and clubs do not have the financial backing to be able to keep up. Cup competitions such as the FA Cup and FA Vars are vital to the survival of these clubs. Being able to attract more fans to games and being able to grow their fan base so that they have more regular fans attending games is so important to them. This is Hamworthy United, and this is their story of how they went from zero to hero. Hamworthy United, a club founded in 1972 after Hamworthy Football Club joined with local side at the time, Trinidad Old Boys. Their kit, being maroon and sky blue, and nickname, the Hammers, have stuck ever since. After numerous promotions and cup wins, the club found themselves in the Wessex Football League Premier Division and are now a well-respected team playing across Dorset, Hampshire and Wiltshire. However, it's not all been sunshine and rainbows, as due to financial burdens, Hamworthy United had to pull out of the 2023-24 season, and because of this, relegated 2 divisions and given a fine, but fortunately survived. Now playing in Wessex Division 1 with new manager Dan Cann, the Hammers are looking to bounce back and return to where they once were. Speaking to Chairman Steve Mitchner, he spoke to me about how he got involved with Hamworthy and what life was like at the club prior to the financial trouble.
Well, my father was a localised referee, and he gave refereeing up in 1972-73 season. He was very good friends with the then chairman, manager, secretary of Hamworthy United, Jack Cruikshank. And when Dad sort of gave up refereeing, Jack said, well, you know, I'm looking for somebody to help me at Hamworthy. So my dad went over there as secretary in 73. So by then I was 15, was playing youth football, but I ended up playing my first senior game for Hamworthy Reserves when I was 15 years of age, and so that's how it started really. And of course Mum then came over and started serving teas and coffees out the window.
Hamworthy have always been overshadowed by the bigger clubs in the area, such as Poole Town FC, Dorchester FC and Weymouth FC, but they have still had their fair share of triumphs and achievements.
I think it went through a bit of a lull in terms of performance. We were an average side. I mean, we managed to get into the Wessex League in season 2004-05 was our first season, and I think out of the blue, Alex Pike was the manager at the time, and out of the blue we went on and won the Wessex League Cup at our first attempt, and we sort of bimbled along. I think we had 2 other Wessex League Cup final appearances, both of which we lost. But then, of course, the budget increased, and this is the need to ensure that there was plenty of money coming in, both on match days and sponsorship and stuff. And in that 4-year period, you know, look what we did. You know, we won the League Cup again. We won the Wessex League title. FA Vars semi-final, got promoted. Senior Cup finalists, we got beaten in extra time. And then we'd never ever considered that we'd ever be good enough for Southern League, and then there we were in our first season of the Southern League playoff final. So everything was great.
Things were going really well for Hamworthy, and spirits were high for what the rest of the season had to offer. But then, tragedy, as they ran into financial struggles.
Having said all that, just jumping ahead, the final months of the Southern League season, financially was very difficult because nobody really had any idea behind the scenes that, as well as the team were doing so well in 3rd place, money was tight, and we thought, well, we can't pull the plug because look what they're achieving. And from a commercial perspective, we didn't really have a dedicated commercial manager at the time, and so sponsorship was difficult. And then, of course, the season played out. We lost that final, and in that summer, there were some difficult decisions that should or shouldn't have been made.
During the summer of 2023, one of the stands at Hamworthy United was condemned, meaning it had to be demolished and replaced. The club managed to get plans for a new stand to be built, with the Football Federation helping with 70% of the costs. However, As time went on, the stand was not going to be complete in time for the start of the 2023-24 season, so a ground share was needed. The Hammers ended up getting a ground share with Weymouth FC of the National League. However, this was 41 minutes away. The cost of travel and low attendances ultimately led to the Hammers pulling out of the league that very season, meaning players had to find a new club with not much notice. Ex-player Cam Munn talks about his experience at the club.
I think it was under 15s. We were at Branksome United, then the manager at Branksome managed to get into contact with people at Hamworthy. So for under 16s, we transferred to Hamworthy. Then from there, playing under 16s, got a few call-ups to the first team training. Then the manager got sacked, and my school teacher at the time got the manager job at Hamworthy. So as he was my teacher, he got me in training. So kind of lucky, but 16. I think I was 16 when I first played. Quite intimidating, a group of men, but no, everyone was good. Chairman, still talk to him to this day. No, loved it there.
The news of Hamworthy United dropping out of the league mid-season was a shock to the players and everyone around the club. Players had their suspicions due to games being played at a different ground, but no one expected to hear this news. Once players were informed of the club's situation, it was a frenzy for them to find a new club.
Obviously, we knew we were struggling playing our home games at Weymouth, which is an hour away from Hamworthy, so we knew something wasn't right, but it was a Thursday. We all came in to train as normal. I think it got to about 5 to 7. We were all about to go out, and the manager came back in with the chairman. Weird, because it happened on the Thursday, then the news went out Friday morning, and then it was a free-for-all for 20 players to get a club. So we didn't really have much time to process what happened before looking for a next club.
The 2024-25 season was a fresh start for Hamworthy, but the punishment for pulling out the season before was not only fines, but the club were also told that if they were to finish in a promotion or playoff place, they would not be allowed to take part. This punishment wouldn't have mattered anyway. Even though Hamworthy had a strong season, they finished 6th, 4 points off a playoff place. The aim now is to make sure Hamworthy never get themselves into the situation they were once in.
Biggest challenge, I sort of put it, well, I use the term president first impressions. So to change the sort of like to get the message out there, what trouble we were in, but also that we were absolutely going to fight and build again, and make sure people understood that it was going to take time. But absolutely, we weren't getting, with the people who were around the club for many years, Bruce and Steve and Pete Gallops, and it was sort of like always that we weren't going to roll over without a fight. And how do we bring people on that journey with us, which was to get more people involved in the club again and see what we're trying to do. But also from that, like the support we had from the local business community, ex-players from the club, it's just been it's pretty amazing, to be perfect honest. I don't really know the words, but it's very humbling. It's like a word I've used a few times.
The emphasis for Hamworthy was on their structure and the personnel they had at the club to try and get them out of the massive hole they were in. That meant a revised plan had to be made, and they were only allowed to spend what they had at the time. Sponsorships were also a massive help for Hamworthy, as they were bringing in money to keep the club running.
We'd done very, very detailed budgets. Andy Ford was treasurer at the time, done a great job trying to manage us through that period, which caused him many sleepless nights. That he obviously resigned in the last season. Richard Gallops took that role on now. So between myself, Richard and the rest of the board, we just put together a very, very comprehensive financial plan. Without the sponsorship, it would have been impossible to be where we are today. So that budget has been adhered to almost to the letter. I think what we set last September, we're probably in about £1,000 of what we set. So we from a debt perspective, the only debt we have left now, I think, is £1,000 left. Our last payment on the stand, which was just under £14,000. So we paid a lump sum off, then X amount per month, £1,000 a month. So hopefully we can say as a club now we're debt free, which 18 months ago we hadn't paid utility bills. But it was scary. When you looked at it, it was scary. Our outgoings against our ingoings were scary. So the Southern League was always going to be a challenge for us, as maybe one step too far from where the club was at a maturity. So what we're trying to do now is to put solid foundations in place that those days can come back, not tomorrow, but when they do, we'll be in a much stronger place financially and commercially, and from a media perspective as well. But we won't spend what we haven't got. Yeah. That is what it is now. But also, just to add on to that, even things, you walk in the ground now, and I think people. I was at a game last night, and someone came up to me and said, "I was at your place 2 weeks ago. It looks amazing." So we've done an awful lot to try and improve how the place looks. All the boards look smart, but everything we try and we walk around this ground is spotless now. So we want everyone who walks in to walk away having a good experience to come down with United, whether it's for a Dorset FA event, game, watch, or Hamworthy event. We just want people to see, "I'd like my board there. I'd like to be part of that club."
With options out there for non-league teams to get funding for things such as new stands or help with running the club, Andy believes it ultimately comes down to decisions made by the club and their owners that in the long run have negative impacts and will come back to bite them. Having people at the club that won't make these sort of decisions, and to make decisions that will not only improve Hamworthy United now, but also for seasons to come, is vital.
I mean, we obviously tried to appeal for so part of our penalty was not going to be promoted this year. We obviously knew that at the start of the season, but obviously kept that because we were trying to build again. So it was always a 2-year plan. But when you look at it, our situation wasn't through financial mismanagement. Yes, we were chasing dream a little bit, but the stand issue with not being able to play at home was probably the final 2 or 3 nails in the coffin. If for a long-term business plan without people putting their personal money in, which how many clubs around the country do that? People chase the dream. You have a director come in, he's a businessman, he's got plenty of cash, and all of a sudden he'll chuck 30-40 grand a year into it, and then all of a sudden he gets bored of that toy 6 years later and walks away, and the club's left holding that, and they can't sustain it. So I mean, there's lots of grants out there for lower league clubs that you can apply for. I mean, we've obviously part of the football stadium fund was paid 70% of the stand, so without that we'd probably still be where we were. People criticise the DCFA, but my experience from being involved, knowing the whole story, they've done a great job in making it look how it does now, and even for them, it hit them financially as well. They paid an extra £60,000 just for the asbestos, but to clear that wasn't in their funding, and so. Do I think they should do more? I mean, I listen to the argument all the time about the Premier League. The Premier League should give more to grassroots football and all the rest of it. But people who are sponsored the Premier League are not sponsored Hamworthy United. So there is stadium funding around, there is ground improvements around, but it is limited. But also, not too many clubs probably chase the dream.
Who knows what the future holds for Hamworthy United, but a strong foundation and to be financially stable, focusing on improving relationships with local businesses and making Hamworthy United an attractive place to come watch football is the goal right now. To make sure nothing like this will ever happen to them again.
I think as long as you work within your budgets and you've got good commercial, good partnerships locally, you can sustain and build, but you have to do it in a strong sort of platformed way. But yeah, chasing the dream, everyone's going to do it still. They do it from the top level to the bottom level and people get in trouble, but it's normally that person who was funding it has walked away what causes a lot of clubs a problem. So I'd like to think we're not in that situation, or we won't be in the future.
Hamworthy United's story highlights a problem within non-league and grassroots football. As football is getting more and more expensive, clubs up and down the footballing pyramid are finding it harder and harder to stay afloat and to continue running. Without non-league clubs and grassroots football, all of football will collapse. Young players won't have anywhere to develop on loan, and fans up and down the country will lose the clubs that they love. So go out, support your local team, keep this level of football alive so that so many more great memories can be made for generations to come. As for Hamworthy United, it's over to new manager Mickey Hubbard for the 2025-26 season to take Hamworthy to the glory of cup wins and league promotion.